Hi everyone, Salesforce integration training day 30. Let's see what we are going to learn today. So we will today quickly go through the previous session and we'll talk about the REST API. What are the REST integration is there? We will see the REST integration and we will talk about the whatever the last class what we have done is, let me show you the last class. So last class what we have done, we have just implemented the connected app. In the server side, how to create a connected app, we have created the connected app. And the connected app name is demo server. Right, so we have created the demo server connected app. And if you click on this manage consumer details, it will ask you the verification details. Now, once you let me get the verification details. Now here verification details this is the one. Let me copy this, paste it here, click on verify. As soon as I click on verify, I'll get the consumer key, consumer secret. Now today we are going to discuss about the topics. We will talk about OAuth 2.0, username and password. So how can I use this username and password tool? This is one of the options in the OAuth. Then we will talk about the REST. What is REST? Why we use it? And what are the characteristics of REST API? What are the characteristics of REST API? And then we'll talk about the REST request. What is the REST request in Salesforce? What is the REST request in Salesforce? Then we will discuss about the what are the different anatomy of the REST request. Anatomy of REST request in Salesforce. And then we will talk about what are the different methods which we have in the REST. What are the REST methods in Salesforce? And why we use each one of them. Then we will talk about the REST header. Why we use the REST headers in Salesforce. What is the REST header and how can we use it? And when we send a request, what is the response we will get it? What is the response we will get it? And what format of the response will be there? Is it a JSON format? Is it a XML format? We will see that. And then we will talk about the HTTP status. HTTP status. What are the different statuses are there? Now, how can I identify by looking at the code? How do I know that whether it is a successful or whether it is an error message? So these are the topics which we are going to see today. These are the topics which we are going to see today. Now let's see the OAuth 2.0 username and password flow. Now, last class we have discussed about the connected app request access token by the sending user credentials to the to token endpoint. So what we have done is we have to send, client has to send a request to the server. So whenever the client is sending a request, client is sending a request, they have to pass the parameters of grant type and client ID, client secret, username, password, and the format. These are has to be there in the request parameter. When they send this request parameter, the response that we are going to get it is access token is the response we will get it. So access token, along with the access token, we will get the ID, we will get the issued at what time is the response request is issued or a response is issued, right? And what is the instance URL and what is the signature that is available. And along with this, we will also receive the token type. Also, we will receive the token type. Now we will see this OAuth 2.0 username and password flow. Now last class we have created a connected app. So this is the connected app which we have created where it contains the consumer key and the consumer secret. Now copy this consumer key. Copy this consumer key. Now let me go to the client side. In the client side, I'll just paste the consumer key here. This is the consumer key. Consumer key equal to this. I have captured it from the server and I'm pasting in the client side. Pasting in the client side. Similarly, I'll copy the consumer secret. I'm copying the consumer secret. Now let's go to the client side. Consumer secret is string consumer secret. Equal to this is the. So this is consumer secret. Now I have copied both the information. The first one is whatever the consumer key which I have got it from the connected app, as well as I have copied the consumer secret key. Now I have two details which I have provided to the client. Now what we have to do, the next step is, next I need to do the HTTP call. HTTP call to send HTTP request. To send HTTP request. And in return, we are going to get the HTTP response. Right? So now let me go ahead and implement the HTTP. Now I have created the connected app and I gave the connected app details to the client, and client is having the consumer key, consumer secret. Now the next step is I need to implement a protocol here. HTTP H equal to new HTTP. New HTTP. Then I need to enter the HTTP request. HTTP request. This is the request equal to new HTTP request. Now, next step is I need to provide the endpoint. Now request dot, I need to provide set endpoint. Set endpoint. Now here, what is my endpoint? Now my endpoint is, I already mentioned the endpoint in the connected app. If I click on cancel button, now here in the connected app, I have an endpoint. So endpoint is callback URL. So copy this callback URL and give it to the client. Now client will take the callback URL. Now here what I need to provide, I need to provide the whatever the endpoint is there, that endpoint. Now along with this, I need to provide the details. Whatever the details are there, right? So I need to provide along with this, I need to provide the grant type. What are the grant type? Because that is the first request. One of the requests that we have to send is grant type. Grant type equal to password. Now I'll go here. I'll take the grant type equal to password. Equal to password. And next, what is the next that I have? Next one which I have is client ID and client secret. Now I need to pass here client ID and client secret. So client ID, my client ID is, this is the one, consumer key. Client ID is consumer key. What I'll do is I'll do the plus button and add the consumer key here. And then let me add this. Once we have provided the consumer key, next step is I need to provide the client secret. Ampersand client underscore secret equal to client secret equal to, I need to provide the client secret ID. So let me provide this. Click on the plus button here. I'm concatenating it. So consumer secret. And the next step is once I provide the client secret, what else do I need to provide it? I have provided the client ID, client secret. Next one is a username, password. I need to provide username and password. Now let's provide here username, concatenation ampersand, username. Username of the server. What is the server? Username. Now this is the server username, DEC, batch, and then I have the ampersand. I need to provide the password. I need to provide password. Password equal to, in the password, along with the password, I also need to provide the security token. Now copy this security token with the password. Now paste that information. Now my URL is done. Endpoint, building the endpoint is completed. Building the endpoint is done. Request.set endpoint is completed. Now once this is done, once set endpoint, once this request endpoint is done, the next step is I need to call the method. Request dot set method. Request dot set method. Now here we need to use the method called post. We have to always use the method called post for the first time. So connected app sends a username and password as a post to Salesforce token endpoint. What we are doing it, we are posting this username password to get the token. Now post it here. Now let me add the username password. Let me take the copy of this string username and password. I need this username and password. Now the next step is once we have provided these details, now here I have done the endpoint set method. This is done. Now the next step is we have to pass the separate username password in the header. In the header, we have to pass the username and password. In order to pass the username and password in the header, what we have to do is in the data type, I have to use the blob is the data type. Blob header value equal to what are the blob dot value of. Here I will be providing the username and then colon, I need to provide the password. This is a format of providing the header. In the header, blob dot value of username colon password. I need to provide password. Now this header value implementation is done. Now the next step is that authorization. Authorization value. So whatever the header value is there, that header value I need to convert into the basic encoding using the base64 encode. I need to convert the header value. So here I can take string authorization and take any value here variable. So let's say I'm taking the authorization value equal to, let's say here I'm saying the basic plus I'm going to encoding the URL. What are the encoding in the header value is there. I'm going to use the encoding util base 64 encode block. The block value whatever is there, I need to convert that into the basic 64. Here I need to pass header value. Now I'll show you that by printing it, what is the value that contains in the header, and once it converted this, what is the value it contains. So in order to understand, so let's keep here string system dot debug, system dot debug. I'm printing here the header value, header value. Now I'm printing the header value. Now I'll put another debug point to understand when I convert into the string, how it is going to display the data. So this authorization value, single quote. Once we have this authorization value, everything is available, then I have to provide a whatever the request is there, a request dot. We have a set header. Set header. In the set header, two parameters. One is string, another one is whatever the another one is also string. But what I need to process, I need to process the whatever this header value is there after converting it, whatever it is storing here, that data I need to pass it to the header. Now key, you can give it as a authorization, and so till this point is done. Now here, till this point is post method, we are sending the consumer key, consumer secret, username, password to get whether it is successfully processed or not. So what will happen? We are using it here. We will connect app sends the username, user's username password as a post to Salesforce token endpoint. So this is the endpoint. Now that is the first one. And second, what we have done is, I'm building till this point the header value and building it. I'm building the header value. So directly I cannot build the header value inside the set header. In order to build the header value, first I need to get the username password. I need to first store it into the blob, and then blob 2 again I need to convert into the basic 64, and then finally I need to store it into the header. Once this is done, then finally I need to send the request. In order to send the request, h dot, whatever this HTTP protocol is there, h dot, I'm sending the request. Now once I send the request, the response I'll get it. The response I'll be storing into the HTTP response. Let's say variable name is a response equal to whatever I'm receiving it. Finally, I'll print the value system dot debug. Now here, whatever the response is there, response. What is this response? This is the HTTP response. HTTP response. It's a response. Now, Let me execute it. Is everything I'm going to get the token details or access details in order to get the server. Server is going to respond it. When server is going to respond it, I'll get the access token, instance URL, token details, everything I'll get it. So let me execute this logic. Highlight this, click on it, execute. Click on execute. Session expired. Okay. Let me copy this. And enter here. Just a second, let me get the credentials. This is the client credentials. Okay, so whatever we have written, I'll just copy that data. Now let's go to refresh the developer console. Okay, debug. And let me paste this. Okay, so now I'll try to execute this. What are the logic that we have written? I'm executing that logic. System. Now click on a debug. Now if you see the block, header value of the block, I'm getting it as a 57. Now once I convert into the base 64, so this is how the data will be displayed. Now initially I'm adding the basic, and this is once I convert the header value into the base 64 encoding, this is how I'll get the text. Now that text I'm passing into the request header. And the response is bad request, I have received it. What is the reason for the bad request? Why it is a bad request? Now click on this. What is the problem? Let me execute this. Consumer key. Click on execute the highlighted one. Unexpected token. Yep. Click on execute the highlighted one. Debug. Now we have received the response. Now let me copy this response. And this is the response we have received. Let me copy this code also. Right. So the response which I am receiving it, access token, instance URL, and then I have received the ID, I have received the token type, and then we have received the issued at, signature, and then finally ending. So this is the response I am getting it. What is the response I am getting it here? response I have received the access token, right? So access token is, this is the one. Then we have received the instance URL, then we have received the ID, and then we have received the token type, and what is the issue and what is the timestamp. So it will provide you the timestamp, and finally the signature. So this is the signature which is going to provide. So this is the response we are getting it. This is the response we are getting it. Now what I'll do is, whatever the response we are getting it, what is the response, in which format is the response? Response is in the JSON format. Response is in the JSON format. Now whatever the response we are getting it. Now from this from this response, I wanted to get the access token and instance URL. I need the value of these two. I need a value of instance URL. I need a value of access token. That means what is the access token text value? What is the instance URL text value? I wanted to get these two information from the JSON. Now in our previous class, we have already seen how to capture this. There's a text of this. This is the key and this is the value. For this key, how can I capture the value from the JSON? We have already seen the example, so I'm going to use that example. Now, first of all, what are the response which I'm receiving it? The response, I'm going to pass it to the JSON parser. For the response, we can use the JSON parser, which we have already discussed this. JSON parser. For JSON parser, let me give a name to it, equal to, I'm initializing it here, JSON.create parser. While creating the parser, I need to pass the response. What are the responses there? I need to pass that response. So the response will be dot. I just wanted to get the body of it. Right? So I wanted to just get the body of it. I'll get the information. Now, once all the data is stored in the parser, all the data is stored in the parser, now I need to loop through this parser. While parser dot next token, which we have already discussed this. Next token is if it is not equal to null. If it is not equal to null, then go inside, right? So next token is this. So what are the next token? Here it is there. Then go inside. If it is not equal to null, go to the loop. Now once you go to the loop inside it, now get me the current token. Get me the current token. What is the current token? Access token. So what are the line? It will go step by step. First it will go to the this token, and then it will go to the this token, then it will go to the this one, then it will go to the this one, then it will go to the this one, then it will go to the this one. So step by step it gets executed. Now here, when it is not equal to null, go to the parser dot get me the current token. Get the current token. If the current token, so this meeting will end in 10 minutes. So try to connect the same link. If it is not possible, I'll give you the another link. I'll bring you the another link. Okay. Now here, get me the current token. Now, if this current token is equal to, we have something called a JSON token. If you search in the Google, JSON token, JSON token Apex. Now go to the Apex here, JSON token. We have a different JSON tokens are available. Now JSON token, we have a field name. Now a field name is a string token that has a field name. That means there is some field name is available. Could be anything. There is some field name is available. A string token that is a field name. That means whatever the response that I am getting it, it's a field name. Now you need to check is it a field name or not. Usually what are the response access token instance URL? Those are the field names. Or else what you can check here is instead of checking the current token, Now you can do one more thing which we have done already. Now what you can do is parser dot get text. Parser dot get text equal to is it a access token? Get me the text of this. Is it a access token? Is it a access token? If it is a access token, go to the next token. Go to the next token. That means if it is a access token, go to the next token. Now next token is this is the one. Parser dot next token. Now here, get me the whatever the data is there. Whatever the data is there, get me that. How can I get it? Parser dot get text. Get text. Now I'll get the text of this session ID is removed. Now I need to store that value into the variable. Let's say that I'll define this string on top, string a token and storing into a token. Similarly, the next one is if parser dot get text is equal to instance URL is equal to instance URL. Then go inside it and then go to the next token. Parser dot next token. Parser dot next token and get me the text. That means parser dot get text. Now store that value into one variable. Let me take one variable here. String. This is the instance URL. Instance URL. Now I'll take this variable. Click on this. I'll get this. Now finally, once everything is done, I'm going to print the system.debug. System.debug. Here instance URL. And also I'll take the system.debug. I'm going to print the values of those. Values of token, access token. This is no. Let me execute this. Execute the entire thing. Click on execute. Click on debug only. Now I'm getting the instance URL as well as the token. Now this is the instance URL. Instance URL is this one, which is a server. And then token I'm getting it. Token I'm getting it. So this is how we are going to verify whether the token is perfectly I received it or not. Whether the response is 200 or not. Or am I getting the bad request? Right, those are the things we need to check. Now, I can see that without any partner wisdom, now I do not have any partner wisdom. Without any partner wisdom, I can use the connected app and I can build some code into the client side and where in order to communicate between the two systems. Now this the communication is enabled here. Here the communication is enabled. Now once the communication is enabled, now what I can do is, now if you remember, we have implemented a SOAP Apex. We have implemented a SOAP Apex class object. I'll use a SOAP Apex class object and then I'll invoke operation, whatever the method, whatever the OAuth token is there. Right. So probably I'll here OAuth access token, I'm going to pass it. OAuth access token, I'm getting it already here. Access token, I'm getting it. Now we have a some class which we have already created using the SOAP, which is a SOAP lead manager. So lead manager. Now here's in the SOAP lead manager. Now let me copy this entire thing. Click on this. No. Now let's close the developer console. In the SOAP lead manager, we have a method called lead manager, which we have already seen. There is here it is, lead manager. Now I'll take this lead manager, then I'll initialize it. So it is this is the class name dot, I have a lead manager. My another class name is lead manager. Now let's go to the debug. Now here dot, we have a class name, another class is the lead manager. I'm going to initialize this equal to new. So lead manager dot lead manager. Perfect. Now within this, I need to pass certain information. What is that information? I need to pass it here. Session header. Session header, I need to pass it. But in order to pass that session header, first of all, I need to initialize this session header element. Right? This header, I need to pass it. That means now here, lm dot session header. lm dot session header equal to, I need to pass some data here, session object. Now what is it is going to accept it? Basically this has a data type called session header element. Now first of all, I need to declare this SOAP lead manager dot session header element equal to, let's say this is session object obj equal to new. I'm initializing this. Now here in the session obj, what is the value it is there? Now let me show you that. In this class, we have something called session ID. Now I need to use the here session ID equal to whatever the token I'm getting it. Whatever the token I'm getting it, I need to pass that token. Now this is token, I'm passing it. Now, once I pass the token to the session header and the same session header details, I am passing to the lead manager. Now, what I do? Now, the next step is I need to create a lead record. We have a create a lead. Inside the lead manager, there is the lead manager. Inside the lead manager, I have a method called create a lead. For this create a lead, we have to pass the first name, last name, company, email, phone number. Same thing which we have did it previously, right? Now we have did it with the partner wisdom. So this is the data. Now let me copy this. Now here, lm dot create lead manager. Let's say here Sandeep Kumar and so here we are providing some lead details. So let's say here Sharath, I'm giving the Sharath Kumar and Swapna ID S Kumar, let's say 34, and then phone number. If I try to execute this, what will happen? It will click on execute the highlighted one. Now I can see there is a record is created in the server and here is the record ID. This is the record ID. Now if I go to the server, and if I try to paste here the information, I can see the server details. I can see the lead that is created in the server. Now this is the Sharath Kumar and here is the details. And these are the lead is created from the client in server. Right from the client we have sent the details and in server the data is created. Now next we will talk about the REST API. We will talk about the REST API. Now REST API is also similar to the concept of the REST API, REST integration. The concept of the REST integration is similar to the so whenever we wanted to have a communication between the client and server, then we need to use a REST. Now here, whenever it's a same functionality, client will be sending a request to the client will be sending a request to the server, and server will be responding back to the client. But whenever this communication is happening here, now in the REST, we use the few resources by using the resources which is called as a get resource, post resource, put resource, delete resource. By using these resources, we will send a request. We will send a request to the server using the JSON, and then in the server side, we have to check the protocol whether it is a token is working or not. And based on this, server is going to respond the details. Now REST is basically API, and its API sets the rules of that allowed in the program to talk each other. So developer has to create a API on server that allows the client to call it. So REST is nothing but representational state transfer is a set of rules that developer follow when they create a API. When they create a API, we have to follow that. Now there are few characteristics which are available of the REST API. Now the first one is a stateless. First one is stateless. Stateless is nothing but, for example, each request, whenever we are sending a request, each request made by the client to the server, it contains all the necessary information for the server to fulfill the request. Now, without relying on any previous request, like what are the previous requests are there, without relying on the previous request or a server-side storage, this is this is why every authenticated REST request has to carry the authentication token in the request header. Now, this does not increase the request size, but what it does, it lets the server scale without worrying about the storing the state information across the two separate systems. It never stores the state details. It never stores the state information across the two separate requests. It does not store that. So that's the reason it is called as a stateless. And the second one is a cache behavior. Now, sometimes it is important to utilize the method to reduce the load on the server, right? So REST API is we need to implement some sort of a caching. That means the API response can be cached by the client, so that allow the faster response time in subsequent request for the same resource. So this reduce the load on the server and improve the performance, as the server does not need to generate the response each time. If the request is the same, we do not need the each time response will be generated. So that's the reason sometimes we have to utilize the cache behavior. And another characteristic is named resource. Named resource is basically it is a URI. It is URI. We will see this URI. Each request is a named resource. And the next one we have a layered component. Layered component. Now REST requires the API to be designed in the form of layer system, because whenever the client interacts with the server at the same time, that's a single endpoint. At the same time, server interacts with the multiple backend system. Now, what will happen that provides a separation of the concerns, and it makes it easier to add the new backend system, change the existing one, or perform the maintenance without affecting the client. And REST is a authentication, definitely it is a authentication, and it supports the JSON and XML, and also it is friendly URL. That means developer can build their own URL. And next one is we will see the REST request in the Salesforce. REST request in the Salesforce. So whenever we are sending a request in the Salesforce, whenever we are sending a request in the REST request in Salesforce, it has to access the data in a RESTful pattern, which could be a XML or a JSON. Now each resource in the REST API is identified by a named uniform resource identifier, and we can access using the standard HTTP method. And whenever we are using the REST request, we need to follow certain things, like we need to check whether the endpoint is there or not. What is the REST method and what is the REST header? What is the REST body? Now we will see the different methods and different what is the REST header, REST body. Now the first one is a REST method. Now, when we are talking about the REST method, like there are four main type of a request in the REST API. Now REST is built on the HTTP, right? It is built on the HTTP. These types are based on the pre-existing HTTP. So for example, if I talk about the GET, it is basically a GET resource. It is used to retrieve the information from the server. It is used to retrieve the data from the server, and it is not used to post or modify any state into the client. No, we are not going to use to modify the data. We are just going to retrieve the data and display the information here. Whereas a post resources, it is a where we used to send the information to the server. And post request is typically used to create a new resource or update the existing one in the server. And the next one is a put resource. Put resource is used to update the existing resource in the server. Like a put request should completely replace the current representation of the resource with one specified request. And last one is a delete resource. This is to delete if I send the delete request, if you want to delete or remove the specified resource from the server, then we use the delete resource. These are the different resources which we have in the REST method, and this will be used in the REST methods. Now the next one we will see the next one we have a patch. Patch is basically it will update all the representation of the members in the resource. And let's go ahead and see the next one is a REST headers. Now headers is basically it provides the information for both client and server. Now, basically, it is used to authentication and providing the information about the body content. And it is property value pair separation by colon. Like you have to mention in the REST header content hyphen type equal to application / JSON. Like this is you usually see this whenever you are using the Postman or a web workbench, through the workbench or through the Postman. Whenever you are sending a post, that time you need to pass this request REST header, which is called as a content hyphen type colon application / JSON. That's what you have to pass it. And whenever we send the request, the response you will receive it in the form of RESTful response is a JSON or a XML. Now, whenever we receive a response, we have a different type of a codes are there. Now, if you have a get request, get resource, right? If you are using the get resource, if it is a successful, you receive the 200 successful resource. If you are using a post resource in order to post the data into the server, if it is a successful, you will receive the 201. If it is a delete resource, you are using the delete resource in order to remove the resource in the server. In that case, we use the 204. We get the 204 success code for the delete. Now these are the success code for the get, post and delete. Now we have a few things like whenever there is a request body error, then I'll get 400. If it is there is a expired or invalid session, then I'll get it 401. If it is a request is refused, then I'll get the 403. If it is a resource is not available, in case any resource is not available, then we will get a 404. Now, in case the internal server is error or a request is not completed, we will get a 500, right? We will get 500. Now, this 500 is could be any server error or a request is not completed. Sometimes we see the 501 for the post one. So, in that case, if your request is not able to complete to process the data, then we will see 501. So, these are the couple of status codes. By looking at this, we can identify whether it is a successful or not, whether it is successful or not. So that's all for today. We will see tomorrow how to implement a REST in the Apex and how can we use the REST in the Salesforce, what are the different annotations, what are the steps, how many steps do we have to follow in order to implement the REST, we will see next class. Thank you.